This is The Extra Point, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast, sponsored by your Phoenix Suns.
All right, welcome into the Arizona's Family podcast studio for the group chat. Nick King here with Matt Hippie and Joe Ferris, regulars, and a special guest, Zach Prelutsky, hot take artist.
Woo. Thank you. We're gonna see how hot
the hottest.
It's gonna be hotter than it was today.
What do you got?
Pretty cool today, apparently.
It wasn't that bad.
What are you burning on?
Do we want to start with the Diamondbacks?
Yes.
I don't know if I'm the resident St. Louis Cardinals fan.
I think you are.
I am now.
I think.
Yeah.
Listen,
Dennis
great
Welch.
series by the Diamondbacks. They gave it to us. Can't lie. All I will say is the Cardinals are not very good. So I would maybe just pump the brakes a little bit if I'm Diamondbacks fans. I don't know if sweeping the Cardinals at home when Miles Michaelis and Andre Palante pitch is going to turn around the season, but I hope it does for you guys.
It was not a real litmus test.
No, I think the Astros will be much better test.
So you went on Friday, watching Saturday and Sunday. You were not impressed.
With the Diamondbacks, I was very impressed. With the Cardinals, I don't know if the listeners or the viewers care to hear me rant about the Cardinals for hours. It was just one of the most uninspiring baseball performances weekends I've seen in a long time.
Craig Stern and I spent about 10 minutes talking about Wisconsin. I think you're fine talking about the Cardinals.
All right, here's what I would say about the Diamondbacks. Only their fourth sweep of the season, and this one was convincing in a way that none of the others had been, and very few strings of games have been all season, where the starting pitching was borderline dominant. And I think Friday it was 5-0 D-backs after 3 innings. Saturday it was 6-0 after 3 innings. Sunday it was 5-1 after 3 innings. And you don't have to put your bullpen in a spot really of any great concern. That's the recipe for them, that they have this starting pitching was supposed to be excellent. And for a weekend, it was excellent. And the hitting was great. But as far as pumping the brakes, yeah, we're recording this Monday night as D-backs Astros is just getting underway. It can't just be 3 games for this team. It has been up and down, up and down, up and down the entire season. And if you're going to force Mike Hazen to say, hold the phone to everyone calling about Gino Suarez and Zach Gallen and Merrill Kelly, it's got to be more than just 3 wins. It's got to be probably taking at least 2 from the Astros, at least 2, if not a sweep of the Pirates after that, I would say.
I feel like they've been, maybe it only happened. I know it happened at least once, but it feels like every time they sweep or are swept, they follow that up with the opposite.
Probably.
I know it's happened at least once, but it feels like it's been more than once.
And it's also every time they get like at or close to 500, they can't get over that hump and roll off. Like the Brewers are winning 10 in a row, or the Cards won 9 or 10 in a row earlier in the year. They haven't had that long sustained stretch, which they need because they are 4.5 out of the wild card as we sit, but they're behind 4 teams. So, it's not just those 4.5 games. You got to jump all of these teams as well.
They all need to stub their toes a bit.
They've given us 100 games to believe that they are a team that is just going to be back and forth. Again, to convince any of us, including Mike Hazen otherwise, it has to be sustained. Gino Suarez, though, talking about sustaining things.
What about tough call and what to do with him?
Yeah, because his value has never been greater. He's not going to be back next year. He's a free agent. But the fan base is finally, is in love with this guy for good reason. He's hit 2 home runs in consecutive games. He's leading baseball in RBI. If you punt on this season by trading Gino and or any of these other guys, you're definitely going to lose fans the rest of the way for whatever that is worth.
They'll check out.
I guess the trade deadline's in 10 days, 12 days, something like that. I guess how long of a leash are you giving this team? Is it, how many games in the next 10, 12 days? Because everybody at the stadium on Friday was, you paying more attention when Gino was coming up, when Corbin was coming up, watching the games in the newsroom. Everyone's cheering when Gino hits way too many home runs against the Cardinals, as he's done when he was a Red. Now with the D-back, it's happened. I've seen it a lot. But as a Cardinals fan, we've sold the last few years, and I grew up with we're going to the playoffs every year. If we don't make the NLCS, if we don't make the World Series, this is a disappointing year. And now I'm like, let's sell Ryan Helsley. You guys want Ryan Helsley? We'll trade him to the Diamondbacks. You need bullpen help. Well, I guess I'm curious, you guys being more ingrained, what is there a magic number in your mind of if they get to this point by the deadline, we're keeping them?
Yeah, I almost think, as I was saying, like Astros Pirates, I think that's the 2 series that you give it. That's basically then 3 games before the trade deadline. I think those 3 are against the Tigers, which will be a challenge. But if you can show over these next 6 against the Astros and Pirates that you win 5 of those 6, maybe 4. But I think probably, like, honestly, it's got to be like 5. It's got to be a string here coming out of the break where it's it was something like 8 out of 9 games, because they just haven't had that.
The thing I think about is how much can you learn in the roughly 2 weeks between the All-Star break and the trade deadline that you didn't already know?
I mean, a lot of D-backs fans look at that. I don't know. I just go back to that sweep of the Cardinals and my Twitter feed and just people I've run into. It's like, is the season changing? Are we changing? It
was the best they've looked all year.
Yeah.
But it's also, is this team, are you going to make the playoffs, or are you going to make a deep run in the playoffs? Like, have they shown anything to say, hey, we're going to make a deep run, we're going to capture some 23 magic again and, make it all the way to the World Series? Or is it, we just want to make the playoffs because we missed it so close last year and this fan base is dying to get back after that run in 23?
I think it's because of 23 that you have a hard time selling or giving up, because they weren't good in August. They weren't good at the end of September in 2023. And we see so often in baseball's playoffs, like, it just takes getting hot for that stretch for something to happen. And the piece, like the talent, is still largely there outside of the bullpen arms and Corbin Burns. The talent is still there that lightning in a bottle feels possible. Even last year, they were really good the most of the second half of the season. Came a game short of the playoffs. But the idea that this roster is capable of a turnaround, like, you have to still believe in that possibility.
But I think in 23, like, they showed in April, like, hey, this team is really good.
True.
And they were in a much better spot at this time than
Like,
they were then, too.
At no point in any month this year have they been better than the 500 team they are.
But if they win 5 of the next 6, that would be 8 of 9. They want to think the game going to the break. There's 9 of 10.
But what made 23 so magical was that it was magical. And to expect that to be the norm seems like a little bit of a delusion in some ways. Because, I mean, that's what made it so great, is because you never expected it. And they were in a better spot then than they are now.
Well, and I also think they started Fott, who's figured something out, Kelly, who's pitched pretty great all year, and Nelson's been great filling in. Now they got Gallen and Rodriguez coming up. Gallen, the score is 3-1. He gave up a 3-run bomb already in the second. So I think, their starting pitching, can they carry them as well?
It's a mirage in the desert.
God, that's brutal. Because Gallen, maybe the 2 games prior to his last game before the All-Star break were really, really good. And then not so much that last one. I mean, he's kind of been the epitome of this team, where he's had like a half dozen starts that have been awesome and a baker's dozen that have not been awesome. And then that's been tough.
And there's no like cavalry coming. There's no one like, hey, Burns is going to come back.
Yeah.
That's probably the hardest part too. Is like I was saying, like over against the Cardinals, they didn't put the bullpen in any dicey situations. That's not going to happen forever.
I will say on Friday night, it was 7-0 going into the 9th, and the Cards, Victor Scott hit a 2-run home run, I think with 1 or 2 outs. It was 7-3. Like the game was over, but like you could just hear the audible groan from everybody. Like, oh gosh, here we go again. Like, can we hold this 7-0 lead in the 9th inning?
They've become conditioned to it this year, where it didn't seem that crazy that they could come back and tie it.
Yeah,
and the bases were loaded at one point, right? When it was 7-3.
No, Sunday they were loaded when it was 5-1, and then I think we only scored 1. We don't have to talk about the Cardinals too much.
I guess the larger point here is that it's difficult. It's a difficult spot. Like, yeah, how much can you learn in 2 weeks? How much can your beliefs change in 2 weeks? If you do sell, if you're Mike Hazen, like what kind of message is that to the fan base? Are they then like what
kind of return could you get though?
I mean,
there's a lot of
and how much of your future 2-3 years from now do you mortgage in a sense for the last 2 months of the season?
Well, and they have to. Ken Rosenthal wrote an article today featuring the D-backs, and it was just talking about 2026 and how shambles their team is going forward next year.
That's the other thing I was going to say is if you do say we're done with this season, there's not a lot of reason to believe that you're not saying the same thing about next year. I guess you're probably saying it regardless because you're probably not bringing back, definitely not all of Gino, Gallen, Kelly. Honestly, I'd be surprised if more than one of them are back. But the fact that Burns and Martinez are going to be out for a good chunk of next year too. Yeah, if you're selling and you're bringing in, like that return is probably going to be guys that aren't ready this year or next year. You're really looking at 2 years from now before you're back feeling like you're a team that's a contender again.
But are you buying, are you selling, or is there a world where they don't do anything? Because I feel like the world where they don't do anything from an outside, a non-Diamondbacks fan perspective, it's like, what's the point of that?
Yeah.
Just standing pat with this team that
they would be like no point of that. But.
I've been a fan of the Giants, and they've been in this position a couple years where they make a hot run. And it's like, let's keep this team together. And they kind of like trade a little and get a little back. And then they just fall flat to what the team they were before July.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a shot to get rid of Madison Bumgarner and get something in return. And we ended up never doing that. And might have set our team back a little.
I would guess if they don't sell, that they're bringing in a bullpen arm that's ready. But
listen, Ryan Helsley, he's on the market. If you guys got any, we'll take Jordan Lawler. He can take over for Nolan when he retires.
I don't think Lawler's going anywhere. But all right. Diamondbacks still a focal point for us for the time being. We'll see what the next 2 weeks hold. But Cardinals start training camp on Wednesday officially. So football is here.
Never until I started working in sports did I think of football starting in July. To me, it was always Labor Day. That's when the fantasy drafts happen, and then the next weekend the season kicks off. That's the start of football. A little bit of college football at the end of August, but really, it's a hard for me thinking of football starting in July.
I'll tell you that I would rather be invested in the Diamondbacks season and the Phoenix Mercury season, frankly, for as long as possible until the games start. I am not enthralled by the month and a half lead up to the games. It's a lot of the conversations that we've been having for months on end.
Yeah. And outside of the surprise injuries that sometimes happen during training camp, you kind of hear the same talking points recycled year after year. They may change the player that it's applied to, but you hear a lot of, best shape of my life. The game has really slowed down for me. I was injured at the end of last year. You're going to hear all of that come out about all these players over the next 2 weeks. He looks great out there.
It looks great against air.
Against nobody. So, I mean, training camp is what it is. You get to see the players again. You get to hear from them again. But as far as actual football content, not a whole lot comes out of it.
Zach, who are you a football fan of?
Right now, I like my fantasy team.
You're a St. Louis guy. What was the Rams? Were you a Rams fan growing up?
I had season tickets. They moved to the town in '95. My family had season tickets, 400 level. I went to, was one of the few thousand people in a lot of those games, and then kind of swore them off when Stan Kroenke
I've
trashed my hometown and left.
I've known one other person from St. Louis who was the same thing. He just swore off the Rams.
It was like they were so bad. I was like 4 years old when they won the Super Bowl, so I don't really remember. But from like 2003 to they left, they were so bad.
They were bad.
They were so bad. Like we went 7-8-1 one year, and I thought like Sam Bradford was going to be my savior.
Sounds like Jeff Fisher must have been the coach.
He was.
We're not going 8-8 again.
That was too good. That would have made the playoffs that year. And then they moved to LA, and then like 3 years later they won the Super Bowl. So that was tough for me.
Was there 1 year of Sean McVay in St. Louis, or was that not until they got to LA?
No,
because Fisher was in
Jeff
LA.
Fisher did take them.
I think they moved to LA and then drafted Goff the first year. But so I'm open to being a Cardinals fan. Another former St. Louis team that left and came out here.
How old were you then?
Negative.
They left what, 88?
88, 89, something like that.
Yeah. So not like a real allegiance, but I feel like the Cardinals just from my year and a half being here, they're just kind of there. Like, like they're not good. Like, are they supposed to be good this year? Like, have they made any like really big moves? Like, I know it depends on Kyler and his health and what he does. And, James Conner's good and Marvin Harrison Jr. hopefully will take a step forward and the defense, but
their team, I think since Gannon has arrived, they've been making progress towards relevance. I feel like they're not that far away from it. I don't know if they've arrived there yet, though.
But I think they are a team that has expectations, at least from the fan base, that they should be in the playoffs this year.
Because the division's not. I mean, the Seahawks.
The division is not what it
Darnold.
was 2-3 years ago.
It's wide open.
As a whole, I still think the Niners are good, but are the Niners as good as they were 2 years ago?
They have a lot of young defensive players that need to prove themselves and
they
get
don't-
some
they don't-
receivers back.
They don't have the Mr. Irrelevant discount anymore either.
No,
Purdy's getting paid.
he's not this year, next year, but
Either way,
it depends on
it's coming.
Christian McCaffrey. If he has another MVP type season, we can go real far. But the Rams are scary too. Like they got Devontae Adams and Puka, and their defense is young and very talented.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Seahawks are always there. Like it's a tough division for the Cardinals to make ground in, I think.
Yeah, I wouldn't argue that. I would just say 2-3 years ago, it felt like an impossible task.
Yeah.
Because everyone in the division was really good. I think there's the potential for the Rams to be very good, potential for the Niners to be close to very good.
The Niners schedule favors the Niners very much.
I will say there is something refreshing about going into here that's not like Kyler Murray's got something to prove this year. Kyler Murray's got to prove this, got to prove that. I think we've kind of reached a point where we know what Kyler Murray is.
Oh, I will disagree here.
You think
he's
so?
got a lot to prove.
Well, yes, I agree with like prove to like stand up, but I think we know what he is and we know what to expect from him.
So that's the thing. I think it's the last chance for him to prove otherwise.
I think he's missed those chances.
I think if they make the playoffs, win a game in the playoffs, like depending what that looks like, that convinces you to stick with Kyler more. I think if they come up short of the playoffs, I think this is his last chance.
I think maybe I should clarify. I think he's proven what type of player he is in that he's a guy that shows flashes. He does things really well. He can work outside the pocket really well. But I don't think he's the guy that takes you on a deep run in the playoffs.
It's probably, like, frankly, a lot like the Diamondbacks. Kyler's probably played close to 100 games in his career. And I guess it's probably a little bit more below 500 than the D-backs. But, yeah, there is that, like, you've shown us who you are.
Yeah.
But I still think this is, like, one last chance to prove otherwise. Maybe it's hopeful. Maybe it's a lot like these next 6 games for the Diamondbacks. But
that's what I'm saying. It's like that 2 weeks between the what are we going to learn at this point that we haven't learned in 6 years? I will say a third year under Petzing and Gannon, maybe they take another step, but I don't see it. I don't think he will. I think he's a known quantity at this point.
I think it's on this coaching staff a make it break it year for Kyler. Like, is he your quarterback moving forward?
Yeah.
And otherwise, you gotta bring in someone else.
And when even then, it's what, his 7th season. How much moving forward is there? Like, generally for the lifespan of a quarterback, and one who's mobile at that, their career is shorter than, you know, a pocket guy like a Stafford is.
Yeah, the thing is, Kyler still envisions himself as a pocket guy, which is not really
That doesn't
born
play
out
to
to
his
be
strengths.
true, but
yeah,
that's what he wants to be. And he always, you talk about a repeated storyline. It's that Kyler says he's going to run more, but his preference is to not run unless he has to.
which probably plays into that longevity question, because when you do run a lot, you open yourself up to more injuries, and it makes sense that that's what he would want to be. But is that what's best for the team for him to play that way?
He is as good as anyone at avoiding
Yes,
injury.
and extending plays. That's where he becomes more. Sometimes he makes magic happen, and sometimes it's whatever the opposite of magic is.
So just given, all right, we know what Kyler is. This is what you're going to get. If nothing's different with him, do you think they can be a playoff team?
I think so. I think their defense has made enough upgrades. I think having a full year of Darius Robinson, I think he's a player that will be good, and missing as much as he did early in the season last year was just a loss of a rookie season almost. And then adding Josh Sweat, I think will be good. The secondary, I think, is a big question for them. You've got Budda Baker, Jalen Thompson, another known quantity, but the cornerbacks, we don't know. Will Johnson. I don't know how much we've talked about this, but the situation with 2nd-round picks in the NFL this year is fascinating to me.
A lot of them are still unsigned.
Yeah, I think there's like 30
Is that the thing with
32.
the Bengals guy when the owner's like,
Not quite. He was near the end of the 1st round, but the first 2 picks in the 2nd round this year got, I think, Joe, correct me if I'm wrong on this, some sort of guarantee or full guarantee.
Luther Burden was one of them.
I think it was something like that. And now the rest of these 2nd-round picks want that, but NFL owners don't.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to give it to him. So Will Johnson, among them in the Cardinals secondary, is still not signed. So we could get to Wednesday and he may not be out there. I don't know if it's necessarily a holdout. I guess he could still show up without being signed. It's not necessarily a holdout situation, but it seems like there's just one domino that needs to fall, and then the rest of all of these 2nd-rounders will sign.
And that's
a
probably
couple have signed, but it's not nearly majority. It's still a lot are unsigned.
It just seems unprecedented. You have
atypical.
almost, an entire round of draft picks who are not signed because of what the people ahead of them are doing.
And I don't know how much it plays into it, but with Will Johnson, you're talking about a guy who was a top 10-ish, top 15-ish talent who might feel like, despite where he got drafted, him and his agent, that he is deserving of, being paid more than that slot would say. You do have Garrett Williams in the secondary, but he's still relatively young, and it's real young around him.
Yeah,
I think Marvin Harrison Jr.'s got to step up, and that will, if he plays like we all think he should be playing.
Yeah,
and he had a decent year, but he could have been better. It felt like, and if he can fly, and you get McBride going, and the run game going, like now you got a team that feels lethal.
Yeah, McBride's so good. James Conner's so good.
I expect Harrison to make that 2nd-year leap that we're all expecting him to see.
He definitely bulked up, and he's got, like, I think a lot of the problems was he fast enough? Did he fight for the ball enough? Could he be dependable? And it just seemed like Petzing and Kyler, when it hit the fan, he wasn't dependable, and so they went elsewhere in the offense, and McBride ate up the yards. And
he would become invisible at times.
Yeah, McBride was the guy that Kyler knew where he was going to be and what he was going to get when he threw him the ball.
And he was the first receiver taken, and I think 3 or 4 other pass catchers had 1,000 yards and tons of catches.
Of the rookie wide
Yeah,
receivers last year.
Yeah.
last year's rookie class was
Neighbors.
bonkers. Yeah, Brian Thomas and
And
Harrison was the
tight
first
end.
one of them taken. Yeah, Brock Bowers even, and he was the first one of them taken. But I wouldn't be that concerned. I think he's going to be at least as good as expected to be.
It might be simplistic and what the average fan looks at. Looking at just the quarterback and the star wide receiver, but that might be the biggest thing of what makes the Cardinals make or break this season. Kyler Murray and Marvin Harrison Jr., what kind of players those two are.
Yeah. The Cardinals, I mean, they have a huge benefit of continuity on offense. There's not a whole lot that's changed. I think the offensive line will maybe have two different starters. And even then, at least a couple of them started a handful of games last year, so it's not completely new. Their pass catchers are good. Michael Wilson, I think, is someone who is still poised for a breakout. I don't think he's that far away from it happening either. So, yeah, Cardinals offense, I think, is their strength, and then the defense is their big question mark.
Suns,
which I do think will be better.
Quickly on the Suns, the Bradley Beal saga is over.
Hey, don't be too mean to my boy Bradley Beal.
He's from St. Louis.
As a St. Louis guy.
All right, so what are your thoughts on Brad?
I understand that he was not available and that he was not as good as many people wanted him or thought he should be, but I don't blame him. He's not the one who was given this no trade clause. He's not the one who traded, this parts of this championship team to get him. I didn't get to cover him personally, so I don't, but he seems, from everything I've heard and read and people that I know who do know him, he seems like a very great guy, just super nice guy, family guy. So, personally, I'm sad that it didn't work out. I think any Suns fan would have wanted it to work out, because if it worked out, it would have been better for everybody. And it just didn't. Then Joe Ferris gave me a collectible item the day before he got bought out. So thank you, Joe.
I agree with you. I don't think he deserved a lot of the hate that he's gotten from fans. I don't think he's done anything wrong. He didn't live up to what his contract numbers were, but by no means was he a bad guy. And he didn't do anything that anybody in his position shouldn't have done.
He didn't go in and tear the locker room apart, from what it sounds like. He wasn't going in there he was hurt a lot. He didn't play, but he wasn't
that's
Katie, you stink. Devin, you stink. Grayson, you're a bad teammate.
Everybody else needs to step up but me.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he wasn't like that.
From everything we know, Bradley Beal was anything but a locker room cancer.
Yeah.
And the idea, or the thought that he's a good dude was everything that we saw from him. And anytime we talked to him.
And if you have something written in a contract, you have every right to exercise that to the fullest extent that you can. And I can't blame him for not allowing himself to be traded to a place where he didn't want to go to, just so he could help the Suns out. I don't think
But the buyout was absolutely the best thing for both of them. I
think so too.
It had to happen, and he's going to LA. He's going to play with CP and Kawhi, and I hope he does well. Maybe not at the expense of the Suns, but
he's now on a roster where he is not the most injury prone player,
or the highest paid,
by far.
No, it was, I think, the best thing for both sides. Suns can move on.
Yeah.
And
they get so
out
much
of the
flexibility out of it.
The luxury tax.
Yeah.
And it got bad for him. Yes, a lot of it was unjust. The end of the season, was it the last home game?
Yep.
Last game of the year. Bradley Beal bobblehead.
Yes. On fan appreciation night.
Instead of because it was so bad with how the fan base felt about him, they were not just handing them out, which I'm pretty sure is what happens 99.9% of the time when teams do bobblehead giveaways. Instead, they handed out vouchers at the arena, and you could go redeem it if you wanted a bobblehead.
After the game. You had to wait until the game was over before you could get it.
And just the disparity, one of our executive producers, she went to the game on Saturday, and she wanted a Ketel Marte bobblehead. Went over an hour early, she said, and they were gone.
And it was still out.
And then you compare that to Brad Beal where they
Yeah.
have to give out vouchers.
They
And
were afraid of.
I mean, that's probably the reason I got one because Joe had so many extras that he. And it was like him. It was him painting. It was just kind of
it was
a weird bobble.
It was an odd one.
It was it's the end of an unfortunate era in Suns franchise history.
Now, I have a question. When he comes back and when KD comes back, probably for KD, but does he get like a shot on the video board? He's probably not getting a video tribute, but are they going to put him on the video board and say, here's Brad Beal, fans?
Yeah, they'll do that with like 15 minutes left in warmups before
Yes.
80% of the crowd is in their seats.
Yes.
They did that for Chris Paul, and Chris Paul wasn't on the floor
Yeah.
for his
Yeah.
video.
Yeah, that was with like a couple minutes left in warmups, and I think people by and large were very grateful to Chris Paul and really liked Chris Paul. So
Yeah.
the KD one actually will be very interesting.
Yes, I was just gonna say I'll be very curious to see what the reaction is to him because when he got here, I mean, you would have thought that the Suns did just win a championship when it happened.
Parades were being planned.
Yes, and that was so far from it. But he wasn't the problem either. And so I'm very curious to see how the fan base reacts to him returning.
It's hard for me to like pin the failures of the last 2 years on any one player.
It's a mix of everything,
or even the combination of Durant and Beal, but it just didn't work. It was necessary to move on, and I'm glad that we're at this point.
Yeah, versus just let's try it again. Maybe a new coach this time will change it.
Was he getting a lot of flack? Because I wasn't here when, like, I assume people liked the trade. Durant,
Bradley Beal.
Probably more KD, but nobody was really saying, "Oh, Matt Ishbia, what are you doing?"
No,
and now it's
when the trade for Durant
Sure.
happened, everyone was building a monument to Ishbia already.
And now everyone's like, "Why'd you give away Mikal Bridges?"
He just did, and then
Johnson.
Even with the Beal trade, I think there was a little bit of skepticism, like, "Oh, this feels a little redundant," but he's making moves. We got off the Chris Paul contract. That Beal contract sucks, but if they score as much as we think they should, it'll be all right. And then that didn't happen, and then now it's.
I remember it was basically like, how can we be stopped with these three big three, and they kind of stopped themselves.
Well, now we know.
As it turns out, they were not hard to be stopped.
That just goes back to the reactionary point of sports and fandom. And
well, didn't Beal miss like the first like 17 games or something? It was crazy. He got injured
in the preseason
right at the start.
That's right.
Then KD get hurt like in warmups his first.
Yeah,
before the first home game.
I mean, he was injured when he got here, and then so it took a month and a half, until he was supposed to play.
Also, if nothing else, the Suns are at least not boring. I mean, maybe they were on the court, but the actual structure of the team and what's around them, they've been a very interesting team to me since I've been following them. Not necessarily always their play on the court, but
I just hope they're not boring this year.
Well, yeah,
I come in, the Suns are going to be great.
I think it might be the opposite this year. I think their play on the court will be very interesting and fun. Maybe they won't win as much, but I think they're going to be an interesting team to watch. But I think all of the circus surrounding the team is probably going to die down a little bit, and it's going to be a little bit. That's my expectation.
That'll be tough for you guys mostly. So I'm sorry about that.
No,
well, it's mostly just they won't be nationally relevant.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that should be like a lot of fans in a market like Phoenix are generally going to complain that their team isn't being talked about enough nationally. I think they'll be happy to not be talked about because most of what the talking was the last 2 years was negative.
Not living up to expectations.
Yeah.
We come back to that a lot in this podcast is expectation.
All right. Quickly, Zach, you're a golf guy.
Yep.
Scottie Scheffler. And speaking of interesting, do you find him and his greatness to be interesting?
Yes. Did you? I mean, it was like a 6-minute answer he gave, but at the beginning of the week, I thought that was interesting. I selfishly wished he would have, not had a 6-shot lead at most points during yesterday, so I would have had some intrigue watching it. It felt like Tiger 2008. Oh, Scotty's got a 4-shot lead going on Sunday. Do I even bother waking up at 6:30 to watch this? Because he's gonna sail through. But I remember hearing his name when he was like in college, and I think he did like the Byron Nelson. And it's like, oh, Jordan Spieth, he's like going to be the next UT guy. He's going to be the next stud. And then he went his first 70 starts and didn't win anything. His last 76, only 17 wins and 4 majors and a gold medal and, all that stuff. So how can you not appreciate greatness and somebody who's so humble doing it? He's not kicking in lockers like Wyndham Clark or cursing out his club like Tyrrell Hatton or,
I
just
can get
like
a little
different.
feisty out there, but
yeah, but he's been winning so much we haven't seen it lately. But yes, I appreciate his greatness and love watching him play.
I think dominance is worth watching. You question whether I should get up to watch this with that lead. I'd sometimes think like a dominant, that kind of thing is I don't want to miss somebody playing like that.
So that's why I love the Olympics. The part of the Olympics that I love is like Usain Bolt, Michael Phelps, Katie Ledecky, like the thought that they're making all the other best people on the planet at this athletic event. They're making them look like high schoolers.
Yeah,
practically. They're so much better than anyone else. I love that kind of greatness.
I felt that way about Tom Brady near the end, for how much people hated him. We're sick of seeing him winning. There's something you just got to appreciate, who just resets the standard of what success looks like.
Totally. And Scotty, I mean, it is Tiger level dominance that hasn't been seen since Tiger. I mean, Friday, I think he was the afternoon tee time, and just saw him shooting up the board. And I was like, oh God, like it's over. It is over.
You don't go to a golf tournament and someone's like only plus 200 to win when there's 156 other people. Like that doesn't happen unless it's Scotty now or Tiger back in the day.
And on Friday, my buddy was like, well, look at all the names on this leaderboard. It's a pretty good board. And I think Friday was either tied for the lead or at a 1-shot lead going into the weekend. And I was like, if he's there now, he's not going to lose. He's won 11 straight times when he had the 54-hole lead. Going into the final round, he had the lead. Does not give it up. It's over.
Well, and what did he shoot Friday? He was like minus
7 under, I think.
Yeah, like
he shot at 64.
An insane score, and it's like, oh no,
yeah,
Scotty's on a roll.
Did he win after he was arrested in that tournament last year?
But he came in like 4th or whatever.
Yeah.
Still,
that would have just been.
And I don't know if you remember because you weren't here. His first win on tour was the Phoenix Open in 2022. And yeah, up to that point, he was a guy who was mega talented, a name you knew, but there were definitely some questions about, was he capable of finishing? And like I said, that's all he does now.
Well, I heard that Rory like changed his putting, like gave him some putting tips, and he's taken off ever since then.
The thing about Scotty that's so good is his approach shots. He just sticks it within 15 feet like all the damn time. And he doesn't make mistakes, which is why when he has a lead, he's not giving it up.
Well, and I think like he rebounds really well. So like
if he does make a mistake,
he just birdies the next and erases that.
I mean, I remember when he couldn't putt. Like that was what,
even
2
when
years ago.
Winning,
it was like
he couldn't.
This guy can't putt.
Yeah,
and now he is like the best putter or one of the best putters on tour. So I hope this doesn't happen. But he also, that answer and just it's so evident how much he loves his wife and his son and his family. I mean, he's 29, could be 32, and just say, all right, I'm good. Like, that's the kind of guy that, like, if anybody could do it, just the personality you see and that he displays, he would be that sort of a guy. I hope it doesn't happen. I hope he, keeps playing and goes on the Champions Tour and, we see him max out his potential. But
I'd be surprised because in spite, maybe not in spite of what he was saying, because he acknowledged that it's like, that he wrestles with it internally, why he cares so much, why he's so competitive going into each tournament. But he is that. He is super competitive. And like there have been moments in the last year or two where he gets fiery. He gets angry on the course, which I didn't really think he had that in him because he seems so chill and genteel and whatever. But really interesting comments. The 5-6 minute answer, and he kind of repeated it yesterday after he won. I think I understand what he's saying, but it was almost a little too far for me. Where he's just like, winning doesn't make you happy. None of this fulfills you. I don't want to inspire the next generation of golfers. That's not what I'm out here to do. I don't know. It was not quite mixed messaging, but some of it I was like, I'm not sure I'm following all of this.
I think you can interpret it too as like, I'm gonna eventually start losing, and I can't let that define me. And I have a family, I have a kid, I have a wife, and
he's really into his faith, which I think is
right.
What a lot of it stems from. That he's like, I care so much about this, but I can't, and I shouldn't, because that's not the most important thing for me. It's kind of like this life isn't even the most important thing to me.
Brock Purdy parrots that a lot, and it's this is God's path and plan. If I get hurt, I get hurt. If I make $200 million, I make $200 million.
Or I didn't listen to Scheffler's comments too much. Or was it almost of a place where winning becomes more of a relief because when you are that good and you don't win, it feels like you let yourself down, other people down, and winning is more of a relief, and it doesn't feel that necessarily fulfilling. It's just, okay, I did what I needed to do, was supposed to do.
No, I don't think so. It was just like, it just doesn't last. Like whatever the good feelings are, they're short. Half the time coming off of a win, he's teeing it back up again on 4 days later for the next tournament. And it just doesn't, it's not sustaining. And the quote was like, the line that he had a couple times was like, it doesn't fulfill the deepest desires of your heart.
But then I think you said being a dad does. So I think, when he had Bennett, everything, his perspective changed. And, I think he's someone who also, something that he loves, and I think someone put this on social media, which I hadn't thought of it this way, but he loves just the grind of it all. He loves just getting better, trying to perfect his craft, and then the results, winning the tournaments, are just what comes from that, which I thought was an interesting perspective, which I'm like, oh, that could be maybe what he was kind of saying.
The journey is the destination.
Well,
you think you get all philosophical.
It is the type of thing that the athletes that are so good at their craft, it's because they can live in a headspace like that instead of like us, a lot of people watching are like, I don't know, only thinking about the win or the historical perspective or just kind of big pictures. But that idea, while boring for sound bites of don't get too high, don't get too low, live in the moment, all that stuff, like I actually have started to believe that is one of the recipes that allows the athletes to be great, that they have to find a way to live in the moment. Otherwise it becomes too big.
We just need Scotty to take whoever's going to be on the USA Ryder Cup team to like a campground for a week and just preach that, so we don't get our behinds whooped at Bethpage like we did a couple years ago.
Well, I also think if you look back to something interesting I remember from the golf Netflix show, and it was Brooks Koepka was just so in his head that he couldn't make putts. And he was like, is Scottie Scheffler caring like this much about how like bad I am? Like not, internally, is he acting the same as Scottie Scheffler? Like, because Scotty just keeps winning and putting and making everything, and everything is in Brooks's head that he just crumbled big time.
And you play golf. I mean, the mental part of the game is like, it is the game in a sense. So for him to be sustaining his mental capacity and his mental fortitude, along with his, physical play, is, I think, probably the most impressive part of this 3-year stretch he's been on.
Totally. And while I do love watching greatness, it kind of sucks for a golf tournament, especially a major.
Thank
like
you.
the last thing that I want in a major is for someone to start the final round leading by 4 shots or more, especially if it's Scotty.
Unless it's a
over.
no-name and then Scotty's right behind it.
Yeah,
That would maybe
that's
be
okay, because that person's probably going to be feeling the heat.
Well, and this is when you have to like wake up for it and like try to pay attention and early in the morning.
I woke up Saturday, watched Rory birdie 3 of the first 4 holes, and I was like, "Oh, right, let's go." He can put some heat on Scotty. Maybe if he would have gotten into the final pairing for the final round, thought that might have happened, but
He had the coolest moment with the double ball.
that was ridiculous.
Did you see that, Matt?
I did not.
He was in a deep rough and he swung and he nailed his ball, but then this other ball that was buried under his popped up, and then he basically hit 2 balls at the same time.
I've never heard of anything like that happening before.
I don't think it has.
I just wonder how long that ball had been down there for.
Right? In Scotland, who knows?
Northern Ireland.
Northern Ireland, yes.
Over there.
I was just watching a show that's in Scotland, so that was in my mind.
What were you watching?
Department Q,
Oh,
Netflix.
good.
It's a good murder mystery show. Cop overcoming his demons. Kind of a dick, but really good at what he does. It was a really good show. And it's full of Scottish people, so the accents are great.
Yes. Generally over there, they do the murder mystery pretty good.
This was an interesting thing I was reading about going into it. So British Open, somewhat of a colloquial term for it, right? The Open or the Open Championship is more accepted. Northern Ireland, while part of the UK, is not part of Britain. So British Open should not have applied to this one particularly.
I grew up saying the British Open, and I've kind of moved on to Open Championship.
I feel like that's an American thing, right? Calling
Very
it the
much.
British Open.
Very much. Dumb Americans.
Yes. Northern Ireland, not part
But
of
we
Britain.
have won the Open the last 3 years, so we can't complain too much again.
But ours is always the U.S. Open, right?
Yeah.
Ours is qualified. Theirs
Yeah.
is just the Open.
Yeah, I guess some people might call the U.S. Open the Open when they're here, but by and large, ours is the U.S. Open. Yeah.
I mean, the Masters, though, is always kind of the big dog. So, got that.
It is the biggest of dogs. Joe, you got anything else you want to hit on?
No, I think we can wrap this bad boy up.
We want to talk about the NASCAR
Zach.
in-season challenge.
Zach's
The Mercury. Let's go Mercury.
Ty Dillon's improbable run. There's no one else here to talk about it. It would
We'll
just
get
be-
to that.
it would just
Zach's
be
got
me
a news
rambling. I got
an
NASCAR
hour.
time.
I
Yeah.
got it.
I got to edit a package. Okay, well, this has been wonderful. Thanks so much for listening.
Zach, thank you for
Watching.
coming.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Woo.
This is The Extra Point, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast, sponsored by your Phoenix Suns.